Hello, this is Goku Physicum1, and I'm back this time to talk about the trilogy of Doctor Who that happened in the 50th anniversary year, and that is The Name of the Doctor, The Day of the Doctor, and The Time of the Doctor. This will be chronological, and there will be spoilers throughout, so be fairly warned, there will not be a spoiler-free version of this video. So, let's get into it. Let's get into the first one, The Name of the Doctor. Well, I should have done this months ago, but I am getting around to do it now. And The Name of the Doctor, I think all three of these episodes are just great. I think they're really good episodes. I've just seen Time of the Doctor, and I'm recording this right after. So my opinions on that are going to be a little bit more, I've just seen it, it's awesome, kind of feelings. But this does wrap up, this is the wrap-up of Matt Smith, and I think it's a fairly decent wrap-up. Now, The Name of the Doctor's story is essentially three of his friends are captured, and he has to go to one place a Time Lord can never go, or a time traveler can never go, their grave, and his grave happens to be on Trenzalore. And so the episode is about him dealing with this, and him going to Trenzalore, and finding out Trenzalore is just this barren wasteland because there was a war there. We didn't see the war, but there was a war there. It's a really fun episode, but it's really sad in a way. It's extremely sad, but it still has those fun moments in between the really, really sadness. The joke of introducing River Song to Clara, and Clara not knowing that that's actually his wife, and things like that made this episode really a really fun episode. But it's a really depressing episode because it's about his time stream, and it's about the Impossible Girl. What is she? And ultimately, as all of you watching this probably know, she's the person that goes in the time stream, makes sure that the Great Intelligence does not interfere with the Doctor, because originally, when the Great Intelligence did go in his time stream, all the planets were disappearing, and so that's who she was. And this introduces John Hurt as the Doctor, which was really cool, which I was wondering who he was. Was he the Valeyard? Was he the other? Or was he the Doctor during the Time War? And that's what he happened to be. And so I do think this was a really good episode. I really loved what happened in it. It was a really fun episode, but it was a really sad episode, and there were a lot of tear-jerking moments. The ending was bittersweet because it just ends with us revealing that this will be resolved in the 50th anniversary, but you're going to have to wait a while. So now we get into the 50th anniversary, the Day of the Doctor. But I'm also going to talk about a little bit of the Night of the Doctor. The Night of the Doctor is the prequel to this, and it's technically the final episode of Paul McGann, because it's Paul McGann regenerating into what would become the War Doctor. And it's really sad because he's trying to help this woman. She doesn't want to be helped by him. The Time Lords have done unspeakable things, and she's kind of afraid of this. And ultimately, he goes and he regenerates into the War Doctor. Now we get into the 50th anniversary. The 50th anniversary, Day of the Doctor, kind of bittersweet. It was a really good episode. And it's bittersweet in the fact that, yet again, it's got tear-jerking moments. The main villains are not Zengorans. The main villains are the Time War itself. And so it's really interesting, the story that goes on here, and ultimately the solutions to everything. And I really like this. My biggest complaint about this episode is more so my real problem about this episode is the ending. Misinterpreted and say that they changed the timeline. No, they didn't. This is what's always happened. But we've not necessarily seen it, what's always happened. So getting to see that outcome and ultimately see what happens. And we do get to see it, and we do get to see what really happens. They were locked in this place all this time. Plot of the episode was actually pretty interesting. How the Zengorans are invading Earth, and the three Doctors have to team up. But ultimately, it's a bigger story about what really happened to Gallifrey, what really happened on that last day, and you really get to see it, and I really like that. I could talk about this episode for a while, but it's really just a really good episode. It really encompasses a lot, and I like to see all the Doctors lined up looking at Gallifrey, and that's where we're going next. That's the next journey. And you actually get to see they're seeded throughout. Even though I don't know if it was planned, they're seeded throughout, and you get to learn this in the final one, The Time of the Doctor. And it does go into The Time of the Doctor, which is The Time of the Doctor is all about Trenzalore. He's on Trenzalore in Christmas Town, and all his enemies have come to destroy this, and this is the big battle that's been building up since the beginning of Matt Smith's run. This is it. This is the finale. This is how it's all going to end, and it ultimately does end. It's just a really good episode in the way that it is a conclusion, but it's a cool conclusion because you actually get to see him age and not have a solution. I do have a problem with this episode, but I'm going to get to that at the end. But this is a problem that you always get with episodes like this. I do think this was a great episode, and I do like how they show you the origins of the Silence and why the Silence became what they are. And ultimately, the Silence that he's been fighting was not actually the original Silence. It's a faction that broke off. The original Silence was actually an ally, and I love the fact at the very end you find out that the people, his allies, are the Silence. The Silence are the people fighting alongside the Doctor, because ultimately all the Doctor wants to do is get his people back, and this war has to end for him to do that, but there's no easy solution to it. I don't really know if this lines up perfectly, but this was a really good episode. There were really tear-jerking moments. I really liked it. I thought the conclusions and all that worked out pretty good. Complaint where he regenerates, but then he still has Matt Smith's face, regenerates in a pop second. That kind of bugged me a little bit. My biggest complaint about this episode and how I'm going to wrap this video up is the fact that it just ends. It doesn't give you the conclusion. You're going to have to wait till the 8th season to get that conclusion, and it just ends with him saying to Clora, "Do you know how to fly this thing?" And we got to see him for a second, but I love to see the new Doctor in the old Doctor's outfit. That's always the funnest moment. I thought I was not going to get to see that, because when he went down, I thought he was going to be the new Doctor, but they tricked us, and he was not the new Doctor. He was still Matt Smith, and then he regenerated into Peter Capaldi. And so that's my review of these. They were short, but yes, these are my thoughts on these episodes. Please leave your thoughts below. Tell me what you think. Tell me how you thought it. I think this was a great year for Doctor Who. I cannot wait for next year's episodes and to see the 8th season. And it's going to be great. This was Goku for the Sum 1. And I will see you next time. YouTube.